Hello everyone. In today's video I'm going to talk about tying this fly, but more importantly I'm going to talk about how to dubbing onto the thread in a couple of ways. Very important skill to master if you want to have more control over dubbing. So without any further ado, let's jump into tying. This is going to be the fast one. I'll recommend that you stay and watch the whole video because I'm talking about some important stuff along the way. So I place the hook in the vise. I'll use the hook is size 12. I'll use GSP thread from Semperfli in 18/0 size. Color absolutely doesn't matter. So I'll just go through the wax 2 times or 3 times or whatever you want. It's up to you. And then I'll just start literally at the eye of the hook, covering the whole shank of this fly. I'm not going to use anything for ribbing. It's going to be just 2 materials fly if I don't count the thread. So it's going to be dubbing and CDC feather. Now, the reason why I covered even the up until the eye here is because I need thread tension. I need some friction between 2 thread layers. If you just pinch the materials onto the bare hook shank, it's going to be slippery, or the thread not so much. So let me go with my flat thread towards the bend of the hook, and then let's talk about what this video is all about. So in this video I'm going to use squirrel dubbing mix. I made a video a couple of months or maybe a year ago how to make this one. So it consists of squirrel, some CDC. Here I used two colors, something like olive and something like dark olive, and then some ice UV dubbing in purple, and that's it. Blend it in coffee grinder and you're good to go. Now what you want to do have for start, you want to start with a very generous clump of dubbing, and then you want to rub it around your thread and dub it and create a noodle, yeah? Because many people would say that the more dubbing is easier to comb out and make it buggy. But look what happens very easily. You just pull it once and it's gone. Like twice, I have nothing on the thread. Meaning that this dubbing is not, I mean, most of dubbings, if you put too much on the thread, is not going to hold as well if you use less. Now what happens if you, let me just take another clump of dubbing, if you take very sparse dubbing and just rub it around hook like this thin, you have more control obviously, which you don't have with very thick dubbing noodle. More importantly, the thread applies more tension between thread, the dubbing is under more tension because thread can pinch dubbing more firmly onto the hook. Because if you use more dubbing, you will cushion the thread tension, which is not so beneficial for the integrity of your fly. But let's go on. So I'm talking about control. You need less is more. That's like one of the golden rules in fly tying, and it applies more or less in almost every aspect of fly tying, I think. So I have this nice thin dubbing noodle that I can control, so I can tie it in layers or whatever I want. But if you don't want to do that, if you just want to go in one go from rear to the hook eye, then I would suggest you to start tapering your noodle, and then taper it and just apply a couple of times. Take your time. I mean, this should be enjoyable activity, unless you're tying for like racing. I used to tie commercially before, and it's not as nice tying as if you tie for yourself without any pressure and fuss. So what I want to do now is I want to just go towards the hook eye, and as you can see I got a little bit tapered body here. Now because I'm tying F fly, I don't need much space over here, so I'll remove this excess, leaving just enough room for the, as you can see, I need a couple of, like quite a few pulls to remove dubbing excess. So you want to have just a little bit of room over here. See, this is it. And prior to this, I actually left the thread base over here, which will in turn make friction for wings that I will mount right now. Now I brushed out this body to make it a little bit more buggier, to suggest maybe legs, maybe some trailing shock and so on. It looks very nice and the taper looks natural. Now for F-fly and most of my CDC flies, I like to use CDC feathers that have like quite particular shape, and I'll try to find a couple of these now to show you. Now I want those barbs, so you can see the rachis in the middle and barbs extending. So the shortest barbs are at the tip of the feather and the longest ones are at the bottom of the feather, but when you stroke them together they all align up nicely at the tips, meaning that I will use most of the barbs for this purpose. I'm not going to waste much. So I'll take two feathers, and I don't even bother to make two same ones this time. I'm just like trying to align them and then stroke all those barbs at the top. Now when I have enough room, I want this to extend, so I don't want it aligned like this because it's too short. Caddisflies, they have a little bit longer wings, and in turn longer wing will support your fly better as well. So keep all those barbs on the top and then counterspin the bobbin holder, make your thread jump into your fingers, make one full turn, pull upwards, full turn, upwards. I'm talking about pressure, upward pressure. And then let me see what I did. This looks good. Now I'm still keeping the tension on the thread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm having GSP. I don't want to take any chances here. These are locking wraps. So with normal thread, like normal synthetic thread, I wouldn't have used as many wraps to lock. But here I want to be sure that it's locked. Now by the time I was talking, the thread unspun a little bit, but I will help it a little bit more to unspin and to make it flat, because I want to cover these butt ends. Now I want to also to cut these a little bit more. Now, okay, I'll just try to cover it in as little wraps as possible, but with thin thread like this, it's not so possible, yeah? So flatten the thread again and go towards the back, and this is okay. Now with flat thread, as you can see it's flat now, I'll create a whip finish and tighten towards the bend of the hook. Okay, now to cut the thread, put some tension on the hook, and with blade that is not serrated, but it needs to be sharp, just press it here against the thread. And I messed up, I can see the tag because I didn't have normal angle with my hand. But nevertheless, let's check the durability of the fly, because it's under just very narrow thread. So I'll just pull on the wing hard. You can see I'm bending the hook, but the wing is still standing strong. So this is how you tie your F fly, or any other fly for that matter. You keep you think what you do. So you twist the thread, you make it twisted and thinner, so it will cinch down more into the material below, in this case into this feather. It will cinch down, it will hold it better with 3-4 couple of turns, but do those consecutive turns like this. So you have 1, then 2, and 3, and maybe even 4, and then when you cut the excess, and then you do the flat thread that covers more surface, and you cover up those buttons here, and you have a nice and neat head. If you want, you can obviously varnish this head, but I don't think it's necessary. Just do two finish knots if you're doing it with a GSP, and that's all, if you want, of course. That's it. Go to the river, fish it, and enjoy your time. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. And for those of you who stayed up until the end of the video and a little bit more, just one bonus tip. Choose your feather for the hook according to the hook size. So smaller hook, smaller feather, bigger hook, bigger feather. It depends, like smaller feather will have thinner rachis, bigger feather will have thicker rachis, which is not so easy to tie in. You need to apply a lot of pressure. So that's why on bigger flies you can apply a lot of pressure. You have something to grasp, to hold while cinching down. On small flies you don't have that luxury, so choose smaller feathers for small flies. And you won't even there is one more thing. On small flies, if you use big feather, you will waste a lot of feather, and if you use this feather on this fly, obviously you will not waste so much. You will waste just a little. So that's something to consider if you don't have enough CDC feathers. So again, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.